guess what? Nigeria's population is estimated at over 200 million, with a growth rate of about 2.6%. And that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, this comes with a lot of demand on available resources and, of course, on government. The increasing population means more resources in terms of social services and provision of social amenities. It means pressure on quality of healthcare, education, water and sanitation, facilities, and of course fund. But most importantly, it also means more pressure on human capacity, and indeed, it confers unimaginable burden on government to ensure that no one is left behind in the process of attaining Agenda 2030 on sustainable development. Now, in addition to Nigeria's peculiar population growth challenge, is also the issue of adaptation to climate change because of the imminent climate crisis, which scientists all over the world have warned may dawn on us sooner than expected. The global community is investing and committing enormous resources to climate-friendly and adaptation initiatives. Now, in all of these, one sector that is vulnerable to the vagaries of nature is transportation. And at the moment, Nigerians are reeling under the weight of poor road network, underdeveloped marine water transportation system, and inadequate rail transport infrastructure. Now, apart from Lagos, few states across the country are investing in sustainable, renewable transportation system. But at the federal level, the Nigerian railway system is only beginning to climb to renewed relevance with a new push and impetus injected by the Buhari administration to ensure a speedy and comprehensive turnaround. Now, only recently, work on the University of Transportation, expected to develop local capacity in railway engineering and sciences, commenced with a groundbreaking in Daura, Katsina State. Now, that is meant to sustain the milestone already achieved in railway transportation development. So, on Late Edition this week, we foray into the transport sector to find out prospects for sustainable transportation system here in Nigeria. I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Thank you for joining me. Dr. Bashir Jama is the President, Chartered Institute of Transport Administration, CIOTA. He has over 25 years of public service and has worked with the Kaduna State government just before transferring his service to the then National Maritime Authority, NMA, in 1994. Dr. Jama was also the Assistant Director in charge of Training and Development in NIMASA. He served as a management staff in the Operations and Administrative Departments. That's, of course, NIMASA. He holds a PhD in Logistics and Transport Management from the University of Port Harcourt. He also holds a master's degree in management from the Korea Maritime and Ocean University in South Korea. Now, my next guest, my second guest for today is Kajetan Chukwemeka Agu, and he's Director, Consumer Affairs at the Nigeria Shippers Council. He has over 2 decades of experience in the maritime industry. He is Fellow, Nigerian Institute of Shipping, Fellow, Chartered Institute of Transport Administration, just as he is Fellow of International Institute of Transport Administration. He is also an accountant with master's degree in economics. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Late Edition this week.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin on a very generic note. Usually we ask, very general question. And we're going to start by asking how imperative is transportation sector now, especially now that Nigeria intends to join the big league in the, economic players, Vision 2020. Let me start with Dr. Jamo.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Claire. Transport is very, very important in every economy. When you look at the developed countries, there is no single country that achieves sustainable development without having their transportation sector right. So also Nigeria, if we want to have a sustainable development, the first thing we have to look into is the issue of transportation, because that's what affects, is inevitable. Every other person, there is nothing he can do without transportation. So mostly if I talk, I say transportation is life, life is transportation. We are here now, all of us. You can't move into this place without transportation, and you can't move anything without transportation. So that is why getting the transportation sector right is very, very cardinal to every government. Now, over the years, we have been experiencing a decay in our own transport infrastructure. And the maintenance culture also didn't help, meaning that the one we have on ground, we were unable to maintain it. And if we can't maintain the old one, then we cannot even think of building the new ones.
How, because right now we are heavy on diversifying our economy,
Yes.
into different areas, and agriculture is key. So is there a way, a nexus between, achieving our objectives, especially in the agri sector, and, the quality of our transport system? Let me bring in Mr. Ago here. Of course, I learned you had been abroad, you studied in Ukraine. So can you give us a sense of understanding?
Well, just as my president has already said, transport is very, very germane to any national economy. In fact, transport remains the lubricant, that actually lubricates the economy. If you develop your transport, you develop your economy. If you neglect your transport, your economy will go down. On the nexus between transportation and export, global trade is driven by transportation. So if you develop your transport, definitely your export will compete, in the global market. If you neglect your transport, then there is no way your export will compete in global market. In shipping, there is what we call connectivity. The more connected a country is, the nearer to the global market. So the question now is that how are we connected? So we have to make impact, in terms of connectivity, because we are still far.
So how are we connected, gentlemen?
Yes.
Because this
in terms of connectivity,
yes,
we discovered that Morocco happened to be the best connected country in Africa, followed by Egypt, followed by South Africa. The distance between America and South Africa, and the distance between America and Nigeria. Nigeria is nearer, but the freight, yes, but freight transportation to South Africa is lesser. Can you see it? It is because South Africa is more connected than Nigeria. Apapa Port used to be the biggest port in West Africa, but now it is second. That is in terms of connectivity. Togo is now more connected, and that is where bigger vessels are now going to Togo. So we have a big challenge at our hand. There is the need to develop our logistic infrastructure.
Dr. Jamo,
yes.
Connectivity. How connected is Nigeria? You've heard Mr. Agu.
Yes, I think if you happen to be in our ended National Transportation Summit, those are the areas we discussed in terms of intermodality. The major problems we have in Nigeria. Now, let me take two sectors. If you take the water transportation, the most important things about transportation is delivery. Now, you come in with your goods and you need to deliver it to the hinterland. The main problem we have, how does the sea connect to the rail or road? Okay. Now, in Nigeria, almost 90%, if not 100%, we rely on road transportation. So you can see the missing link in connectivity between the sea and the rail. So that's bring overburden to our own roads. And as I said earlier, the road infrastructure has been decayed. Only the old one has been maintaining. As you said earlier, 2.6% increase in demography, in the population every year. And we built Apapa Port and Tinkan Island Port in the 70s. You imagine, from 1970 to date, the increase in terms of populations and in terms of the infrastructural development in terms of the ports and rail, and today's position that we are. So you can see that there are a lot of things to do. But as you said, all hope is not lost. The Buhari's administration last year, there was an international port and harbor conference in Nigeria. And when Mr. President was delivering his speech, he directed that all ports, Nigerian port, must be connected with rail. And today, the MPA, in response to that, they concluded the Papa port rail connectivity. So the only thing that left is to connect the internal rail to the grid of the main grid.
Well, we will look at, you know, the milestone
Yes.
in the effort of this present administration to
Yes.
connect, you understand, of course, to develop our intermodal transport system. But I want us to understand the place of transportation, you know, system in modern times. Now we're looking at, we've talked about population growth, which will impact on the transport system. We're also looking at the pressure from, you know, nature, climatic changes, which is now compelling nations of the world to, you know, look at alternatives to especially transport. Mr. Agu, what kind of pressure do, you know, climatic change bring on our transport system?
A lot of pressure. And that's the more reason why, if you look at the 9-point agenda by IMO, you know, the issue of culture and environment comes in. You know, nations must try as much as possible, you know, to take the environment into consideration, you know, in transportation development. Take, for instance, you can see the drilling, oil drilling that is going on in the Niger Delta. You know, they have polluted the environment. It's not supposed to be, because those people are fishermen, and they are no longer fishing. So what it means that they have been displaced. So that's exactly what we are saying. So in developing transport, you have to take into consideration the environment, the culture of the people. You know, if you go to the Niger Delta, you discover that most of the women there are fishermen. You know, whatever development that is taking place there must take into consideration the need to preserve those fishermen, those women that are into fishing. Again, another missing link we're having is that we are not all inclusive in the development of transportation infrastructure. You know, we have the road, we have the rail, we have the pipeline, we have the inland waterways. So all this must be taken into consideration. I see no reason why we should be moving petroleum product by road. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be by pipelines. You know, if you move the petroleum product by pipeline, definitely you'll be saving the roads. If you the average number of years a road lasts is almost 25 years. But you discover that sometimes a road will be constructed after 2-3 years, they're already wearing away. That is because we're not taking into consideration the load meant for that road. Even in West and Central Africa, at the ECOWAS level, we have what we call the protocol agreement on axle load. You know, axle load implementation. Yeah. There are certain trucks that in other West African countries, they don't allow them to move on the road. Then another thing is energy conservation. It's very, very important. You know, so what people are now doing, people are trying as much as possible to look for energy that are friendly. You know, energy that will discourage much emission to the atmosphere. You know, we are talking of depletion of the ozone layer. Yeah. It is because of the emission into the atmosphere. So you discover that in developed countries, they are using friendly energy. You know, in fact, another criteria is that they equally try as much as possible to conserve energy. You know, reduce the quantum of energy you use in performing a particular act. So these are some of the factors being taken into consideration to ensure that we maintain equilibrium within the environment.
Dr. Chamo, you just hinted at the fact that road use or road transport is about 90%. Yeah. And you begin to wonder, road is not, though it's the easiest and probably the most accessible means of transportation, but that is not the only way. Dr. Mr. Agu has talked about inland waterways. You know, and Nigeria is, we have many states that have water. We are connected, by water. So what is happening? Is the state of our transport system today evident of the fact that we have neglected this sector?
No, it's not neglect per se, Claire. You know, the issue of funding is one of the largely problem. And if you look at the Nigeria infrastructural development, almost all the sectors, they are suffering from the same. we are just being awoken to look at other areas that has to do with infrastructural development. As you rightly mentioned, our culture tends to believe more on the road transportations. The issue of rail, you know, in the last 2-3 decades, we have been off and doing in terms of rail development. Now, we have another technology that improve greatly in terms of rail transportation system. And you can see now we are having a kind of improvement in terms of development of the rail system. Now, from Abuja to Kaduna, people can move freely to go to Kaduna from Abuja without necessarily using road transport. And also, just recently, the Honorable Minister of Transportation approved the pre-ride of Lagos-Ibadan rail line. And they are commencing work on Ibadan, Lokoja, Abuja, and Maiduguri, Port Harcourt, also Port Harcourt's links. So you can see all hope is not lost. But, you know, there is must to be proper awareness and understanding of other ways of means of transportations. Largely, if we don't have infrastructure, if you don't have, you can't give what you don't have. The facilities on ground is not enough for Nigerians to use in terms of probably interconnectivity. You know, we are very good in the terms of air. The air transportation, you can see now, is improving. Even though largely, if you ask me to look at the statistical analysis and the database, in terms of research as to why the increase or the hype in terms of aviation industry, mostly you will now relate it to the issue of security, because people feel more scared to use the air rather than to use the road, since the rail system is no longer. And now Kaduna, Abuja, they feel that even rail is more safer for them to use than to use the road. So I think our National Transport Summit tends to address all those areas, and we are coming with communique to approach government and see how we can relate with the government in terms of advocacy.
I will look at it, because both of you probably are fellows of, you know, Institute of Transport Administration.
Call it SIOTA.
SIOTA. And SIOTA is key in whatever happens to our transportation system. But you talked about poor facilities. And that brings me to my next question, Mr. Agu. Do you think the fact that we lack, you know, transport facilities, does that show a gap in urbanization and, you know, planning, sort of?
Well, the answer is yes. Because if you see the way Nigeria is being developed transport-wise, we have some major corridors. You have the Lakaji corridor. The Lakaji corridor is the corridor that spans from Lagos to Ibadan to Minna, Kaduna to Kano. That's the Lakaji corridor. You know, there's another corridor spanning from Warri to Ajokuta to Abuja to Kaduna up to Kano again. Then there's another corridor from Port Harcourt to Enugu to Makurdi to Jos up to Maiduguri. There's another major corridor from Calabar, you know, to Maiduguri. Then the corridor, the southeast corridor, the road spanning from Lagos to Onitsha, then extending to Enugu, to Owerri, Port Harcourt, and Calabar. These are the major corridors. When you look at it, you know, all these corridors are supposed to be serviced by rail. They are all supposed to be serviced by rail. People from the northeast are supposed to be using the Calabar port. That's how it's designed. People from the north central are supposed to be using the Warri port, you know. Then the Lagos port is equally supposed to service the southwest, part of north central, and northwest. That's how it is designed. But you discover that because of the poor nature of some of these roads, let me give you an example. The Calabar Maiduguri corridor is even not in use because of the Income Bridge, which is even under repair for now. But the good thing is that the present government has taken a bold step, because definitely if you look at the rail plan now, all these corridors are being taken into consideration. So you discover that, under NEMO's constancy, there's supposed to be a link between the urban and the rural areas. The rural area are supposed to serve as feeders. Don't forget, some of these agricultural products come from the rural areas. Most of them, get spoiled at the farmhouse. So there is a big link. There is a big link. If you produce and you cannot, move it to the market, you'll be discouraged to produce. You understand? The essence of production is to earn revenue. When you earn revenue, it will improve your poverty level. You become richer. So it moves you away from poverty.
Yeah. So far, at present, if we are to evaluate the different transport modes,
Yes.
how would you rate us, Dr. Jamo?
Well, I don't want to be part of something that I cannot prove, but
no, let's evaluate. Let's evaluate the different
yes,
modes.
I want to explain. When you look at the sea transportation, I want to give a standard gauge. I'm just trying to build a platform on that questions before I come to the conclusions, which you yourself you can judge. If you look at our own sea transportation, it's almost 70% okay, apart from the issue of piracy that we are experiencing. Even though we have other areas.
Is it being optimally used? Is that mode? Is it being optimally used? For what purpose? Who are those using it?
No, at all. You see, the only area that we have perfect utilizations of our own sea transportation, it has to do with the international area, because we are basically an import-dependent country. So since there is nothing we can do without imports, most of the things, even the foods we eat, we import it. So as such, that one is perfect. But when you look at the ferry level is very poor. He just mentioned about the inland waterways. The inland waterways, we definitely lack infrastructure. Barrow Port has been commissioned last year. After the commissioning, we don't have access road that can get to Barrow Road. Now, for instance, if you have linkage between the sea and the inland waterways, you can have barges that will carry cargo from the international voyage up to Barrow Port. Now, if you have that in place, how can a Maiduguri man, or Kano man, or Sokoto man, when you have Barrow Port in Niger State, decide to go to Lagos and start picking his own cargo in Lagos? So certainly you can use the barges and now transport such cargoes to Barrow Port, and from Barrow Port you now take it to Maiduguri or wherever you are going, around the northeast or northwest part of Zamfara, Sokoto. That one is entirely, totally zero. So you see, we are now arriving at the usage. As far as we are concerned, if you take the issue of inland transportation, it's zero. Now, that shorten the level of utilizations of the sea transportation itself, the international voyage. Now, let's go back to the road transportation. Now, the road transportation is almost, as I said earlier, more than 90% utilization in terms of usage. Then you take the issue of pipeline. Pipeline, the present head of president, during when he was a, Minister of Transport, Minister of Petroleum, he was the one that introduced the piping of petroleum products to Zamfara, Zaria, Maiduguri, Yola, Admawa, whereby you have to, from refineries, you can pump the petroleum product into those areas. Now this one, it's become totally 100% zero. So in terms of pipeline transportations, we don't have anything. Now, you go to your house, you open pump, and the water come out through the pipe. You are transporting water through the pipe. Now, simple gas, you can have a gas pipeline in our own houses that we can cook our own gas cooker. The way you can have a water from your own house, we can wear our own system and transport gas into our own houses. And at the end of the month, they give you bill, you pay. The way you collect bill.
That will require a huge facility.
Yes.
It will require so much.
Yeah, there was an introduction of that in Lagos, and somehow the project was abandoned. I don't know why, and so that is in terms of pipeline transportation.
I hope, is that what CIOTA is? Is it part of what
Well,
CIOTA
it's all
is?
part of our own activities.
What
All this one, we are going to revive it. We are looking on how to revive it.
All right, gentlemen, let's take a short break now. When we come back, we'll just look at what is happening in other climes and what we're doing, to catch up. You're watching Late Edition this week, and we're looking at sustainable transformation of the transport system in Nigeria. And I have with me Mr. Kajetan Agu, who is, of course, a fellow of CIOTA and Director Consumer Affairs, Nigeria Shippers Council. And I have Dr. Jamo, who is also, of course, the President of CIOTA. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Late Edition, and this week, as I said earlier on, we are, of course, taking a foreign into the transportation sector to see how we can, of course, achieve sustainable development. Dr. Bashiru Jamo is here with me. He's the president of CIOTA, and Mr. Kajetan Agu is also a fellow and of Shippers Council. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Let us look at road. 90% in use, but it's been the same old story. Dilapidation, decay, you discover that as soon as the roads are either rehabilitated or constructed, the asphalt surface comes off, and then you find big crater, potholes and all that. So why is it that our roads don't live their lifespan? Let me start off with Mr. Agu.
Your roads don't live your lifespan because we are not taking the advantages of piping. Piping and development go hand in hand. I was in Russia for 5 years. I've never gone anywhere to buy gas. I go to the kitchen, I open the gas, I cook my food. So we must take advantages of piping. You pipe your water, you pipe your gas. In fact, under normal circumstances, most of these electric poles you see all over the places, they're supposed to go underground. And that's how you can also sustain nature. If you want to run electric poles, you continue to fell the trees.
You are a member of CIOTA. Yes. Why haven't you been able to do that?
No, this is our first summit. This is our first summit. It's our maiden summit.
As a body?
Yes. And that's the more reason why we are trying as much as possible to encourage inclusive development of all the transportation modes, be it rail, road, pipeline, inland waterways.
Dr. Jamo, speak to me about why our roads don't last.
That's very interesting. He mentioned one of the reasons, and that reason metamorphosed to the answer that I'm going to give you: overusage of the roads. There are no other modes of transportation to complement the roads. That's number one.
Overusage, sorry to interject. Yes. Overusage.
Yes.
When a new road is constructed.
Yes.
Believe me, I'm not exaggerating.
Yes.
It doesn't take at most maybe a few years. And the asphalt comes off. Yeah, so is that overusage, or are we speaking to the issue of quality and I don't know?
No, there are so many factors. Overusage that I mentioned is one of the factors. How does the overusage comes? Claire, when you look at the international best practices, you have your weighing scale and bridges. When you have your own truck, you have to go through a weighing bridge. If you carry overload on your truck, they will ask you to reduce it, and they will fine you, and you will have to pay. But in Nigeria, you find somebody will go and meet a kind of car producing company and ask them a 10-tonner truck, he will ask 45 tons truck. The body carrying 45, and the head will draw 45. That's number one.
I don't understand.
You know, the body of standard trailer,
yes,
the body of standard trailer is made of 30 tons.
Okay.
That's about 600 bags of cement, or rice, or fertilizer, as the case may be.
Okay.
Now they will go and expand the body, the main body of the trucks. Instead of carrying 30 tons, it will be carrying 45 tons with an increase of, so this is an overload, an overusage. And so the pressure of the loads that is going on the road is too much. Number two, you have an option of utilizing rail that can take bulk cargo to a large quantity at the same time. Do you understand? And now the rail is no longer in existence. You can't carry it through the rail that will complement the road. So you now take those cargoes and now put it on the road. Now, these are few examples. Now, let me come back to the basics that you mentioned, the ash belt and other things. You know, we don't have to dodge of our own reality and our own situation. Corruptions. When you give, you know, a company contract to go and build road, and you decide to negotiate certain kickbacks from the proceed of that contract, where he's supposed to put gravels and cement and other things, he will reduce it so that he can be able to meet the demand of the authority that gave him such contract. So the standard of the road itself sometimes is being compromised. Do you understand? In addition to other, there are so many reasons. But for the purpose of these discussions, I think I will limit myself with these other things. Yeah, people can understand that very, very well.
Yes, you know, gentlemen, I don't know. I was in Germany, some time ago, and I was really amazed at the, transport network. And I discovered that few people owned their own cars. Few people used their own cars. They used the public transport. And the public transport, stop at very close distance. So it was convenient for you to come out of your house, and then the next bus stop is just a walk away. So it encourages people to use public transport. But here everybody has a car. So why are we not putting in structures or systems that will discourage people from wanting to use their own personal cars?
That is what CIOTA tends to address. All the things you are mentioning, Claire, if you go to archives, you'll find a lot of write-ups, a lot of committees' report and recommendations. The burden on government is too much. This type of public transport, government may not be able to provide. In so many instances, states and local government, because these things doesn't restrict only, it's not only restricted to federal government, but state government, they have their own role to play, local government, they have their own role to play. You plot a transport system in your own state, then the small time, mismanagement and other things will come up. But you can see what Lagos State they are doing. They are doing pretty well, and if you see the number of BRT they are having and it's working perfectly, and that there is an efficiency and effectiveness of those transportation systems, for goodness sake, Claire, what do you need to have a driver driving you, using car, wear and tear, every day going to the mechanic? You rely on that. Only on special occasions that maybe you are going to follow a route where there is no such provisions as public transport, then you cannot be able to do it. But CIOTA now, what we are trying to do is to create awareness and try to help by advocacy to help government introduce policy and interventions in terms of bringing in probably foreign investors to come and invest on such areas where the government cannot be able to have the fund or concentrated funds for such things. Let the private companies come in and assist. Let the government give them the platform, that they can operate and provide the infrastructures within which for them to operate, either through public-private partnership or build, operate and transfer, build, own and transfer, whatever mode that they are going to use. So all these things, the institute, from our own community, we are going to provide that and distribute it to the relevant ministries. What is concerns aviation, we take it to aviation. What concerns DPR, no, PPMC, that is petroleum pipelines management. So we will now take it there. What concerns rail, we take it to the Ministry of Transportation, as well as roads, we will take it to the Ministry of Works and Power.
A state like Bayelsa, for instance, that is almost, water, 80% water. Lagos too is also mostly water. Now, with the challenge of road space, Lagos is able to, begin to adapt, begin to integrate, her model system. What is it in Lagos, or what is it that Lagos is doing that other states like Bayelsa, for instance, can, take a cue from in terms of transforming the transport system?
Well, in terms of water transportation, we need to do more. I could recollect when I started my career at the Nigerian Shippers Council in 1991. I used to take a ferry from Mile 2 to Apapa.
Precisely.
I equally remember I used to take ferries from Mile 2 to Marina. But you discover that they are no longer there. Although the past administration in Lagos State are trying as much as possible to reintroduce the ferry system. You mentioned that you were in Germany and you were able to enjoy the public transportation.
Precisely.
Yes, the reason why I being that the public transportation, they are secured, they are safe, they are efficient, they are affordable. You understand? That's exactly what is happening. You see, people are using the Abuja Kaduna by rail because it is secured, it's affordable, it's efficient. People are no longer traveling by road because they are not secured. Nobody would like to travel with his private cars, going to office, coming back. But the truth of the fact is that when people look around, the public transportation system is nothing you can say it is good, for the generality of the populace. It is not. Most of the people that use it maybe out of frustration. So there is need to pay more attention to our public transportation system. And that is where the issue of sustainability now comes in. Because we are now talking of a sustainable transportation system. When we are talking of a sustainable transportation system, we are talking of a system, that can meet the needs of the present, generation, and equally the ability to equally meet the needs of future generation. That's the essence of sustainability. So this is the right time for the nation to wake up.
Now,
we must wake up and take drastic actions.
Indeed, now that you've talked about waking up, I know there are, in some, of the research I did, we hear things like hydro, I think it's hydroelectric vehicle. You now have hydroelectric vehicle. I think it's, they say it's a combination of internal combustion engines, combined with an electric engine. So these are, alternatives to, your own cars. The cars, of course, fuel-powered cars, and they are climate friendly. Are there prospects that Nigeria will probably be looking towards that direction?
Well, Claire, whether we like it or not, we must move along with the tides of the international communities and the international best practices. Whether we like it or not, if the technology says that is where we are going and that's where we are facing, we have no option. It's a matter of what will give you effective and efficient, safer way of means of transportations. Now, you see, that is what will bring our own problems more in terms of infrastructural development. What we rely on heavily, it has to do with exportation of our own crude oil. And the international community that patronize our oil, they felt that, look, enough is enough. We have to develop another technology that will become the alternative source of means of transportations, and they come up with this technology. Many countries now, they are using this technology, and they are yet to see that this is not. Now, even in Nigeria, if you feel that you don't have to buy fuel, you can go and, you know, charge your car and move like that without petroleum product. Do you have to wait for anybody to tell you not to use petroleum car? You shouldn't. So the technology is there, and it's fast, moving very fast. Within the next 10 years, Claire, you don't have options rather than to use that one, because you will feel that going to mechanic, looking at your engine and other things like that is a waste of time and waste of resources. So you have to go by that. That is why we must prepare.
Are we planning? Are we preparing? What is Yota's? What direction is Yota looking at in terms of, you know, transforming our transport sector, Mr. Agu?
We are prepared, and effort is being made in that direction. You know, you have mentioned the issue of energy, you know, and that's where the energy conservation comes in. You know, I'm saying we are prepared because if you look at in terms of fossil energy, you know, the future belongs to us. Nigeria happens to be the largest producer of cassava in the whole world, and from cassava you can get a lot of fuel, you know, natural fuel that won't pollute the environment. So we are making headway. But the most important thing, when you look at the IMO agenda, the issue of technology and ICT is equally there. You know, we must equally try as much as possible to embrace technology. Take, for instance, our port system. You know, under normal circumstances, we are supposed to automate the entire port process. Nigeria happens to be the only country in West Africa, you know, that is yet to establish the single window system. And single window has the capability, you know, to eradicate human-to-human contact. Don't forget that human-to-human contact breeds corruption. We are talking of corruption in the maritime sector, and yet we have not done something in that direction. Even the gridlock that is in place at the Lagos port, you know, with technology, you can eliminate it. That's what we call intelligent traffic management system. You know, automate the port gates, put electronic gates, create a truck village, consign all the trucks to the truck village. Electronically, you schedule the course. So the issue of somebody saying that somebody is taking 100,000 naira, taking 150,000 naira for you to bring your truck to the port doesn't arise. So we must embrace technology. Even the issue of cargo tracking note.
But we must also have a roadmap.
Yes.
You know, to embrace this technology, because I know that what the present administration, part of what the present administration is, you know, implementing in the railway modernization project is part of a vision, 2002, you know, vision. So there was a vision. Holistically, do we have a framework, you know, for transforming the sector? Do we have that?
Clear, we have a national transport policy, but it's not yet approved, but it's due for approval. For quite some time, we have been working on it. The Federal Ministry of Transportation issues deadlines for all the MDAs and the agencies concerns in terms of transport to bring their own input, and all the inputs are collected. I am sure that it's in the batch of dispatching from the Federal Ministry of Transportation to the Federal Executive Council for approval. And once it's approved, that framework and the roadmap is a done deal. All these things will now fall in line, and we will be able to have easy sell in terms of the policy issues.
So for this summit, basically,
yes,
what are the expected outcomes, you know, in terms of visibility in the sector?
Well, the expected outcomes is already in place. We are making 102 corrections to release the communique to the press. And, you know, one, we look into the issue of advocacy. We are not going to be silent advocates. We are going to be proactive, and we are going to constitute a committee that will continue to monitor the implementations of such communities and work towards successful implementations of such communique. That's number one. Number two, for areas that we know to government is overbearing, like the issue of traffic, especially Apapa gridlock, we try to introduce what we call volunteer group. Okay. Volunteer group we are going to interface with NYSC and as well as road safety. Road safety, their duty is for them to help and train our volunteer groups from the NYSC to the effect that they will now...
But this is just scratching the surface.
No, you know, we have a short term, medium term, and long term. These are low-hanging fruits that we have. So when we go to the details, you find out that, okay, when we go to the medium plan, when we go to the long-term plan, that must go for sustainable development like that. But for the low-hanging fruits, that's what we are going to say. So then the second issue has to do with research, education, and development. So, you know, day in, day out, we'll have to conduct research. Clear, you will be surprised if you see what is happening with Apapa gridlock. That's why we were unable to get the root of the matter. Sometimes those trucks you are seeing, some of them doesn't have any business to do asphalt. You have your own truck, you park it at home. Why? Because you don't have the cargo or you don't have the loads to carry for another destination. Now the owners of those trucks, they will take their own truck, go and park it in the queue. They will continue to move over the days. If you come with looking for a truck that will quickly enter the port and carry your own cargo, then they will multiply the cost of haulage for you because of the advantage they have. Their truck is very close to the port. So in terms of our research, we must know from where those trucks are coming, where are they going, what type of cargo they are carrying, for whom they are carrying. If you don't have business, we have to do away with you. So this research and development, we have to do that, and we will continue to train and retrain our members.
Okay, we're running out of time. Mr. Ago, you know,
I would love to highlight on the issue.
Yes, please do. In addition to the fact that almost every Nigerian is happy with what is happening in the railway, you know, rail transport area. Everybody's happy. Yeah, I mean, we've all talked about, you know, the joy of rail transport passengers on the Abuja-Kaduna route. Lagos-Ibadan is also coming on strong. When will road users and marine transport users be happy? How will it happen? What is Toyota doing?
In fact, you know, the success that we are attaining in the railway sector, you know, we actually spill over to the road and marine sector. Because when traffic is being taken away from the road to the rail, you will discover that our road will last longer. Once the rail becomes operational, most of these heavy-duty trucks will no longer be on the road. And that is to say, it is only lighter vehicles that we'll see on the road. On the issue of inland waterways, I think government is equally making some efforts to ensure that we revitalize our inland waterway system. Good enough, we have a new MD for now, and I believe with the focus of the present administration, effort will be put in place in no distant time, you know, to make sure that our inland waterway become navigable. You know, he mentioned the issue of Barrow Port. All the facilities are there to make the port operational. It was commissioned by the president already. But the problem is that the link road to Barrow Port is nothing to write home about.
I was going to ask the second Niger bridge, which is, of course, under construction. Yes. What value will that add? I mean, this is just a generic question. What value will it add to the transport system when eventually it's complete? A big one.
Well, Carrie, you know that, you know, when you have one thing, you always depend on that one thing, and at the end of the day, it's going to be overused. So by the time you have the second thing, so you have an alternative. So the burden of this one will now, the new one will be complementing the old one. So definitely,
and the rivers are also being
dredged.
Yes, dredged.
Yes, it's been dredged. Yes, yes. So it's a matter of patience. I think to a large extent, the direction of the present government in terms of infrastructural development is very encouraging. But you know, we cannot build Rome in one day. We have to do it. And you can destroy this building today, one day, but to build it is not easy.
Not this building.
As an example, I'm giving you an example. You can destroy it. Now when you ask bricklayers to come, the workers, they will come and demolish it. Today they can finish it, but you can't build it today. So you can't build it in a day. So we have to be a little bit patient. I think if we are patient, we will be able to get somewhere.
The outlook is bright?
Yeah, the outlook is bright. Nigerians, you know, all of us, we have to put hands on deck. We can't leave everything to the government. That is what the Chartered Institute of Transport Administration of Nigeria intends to do. We have to be off and doing in complementing the efforts of government. Regardless, today, tomorrow, and next tomorrow, we will be there.
Dr. Bashir Jamal, President, Chartered Institute of Transport Administration, CIOTA, thank you very much for coming to the edition this week.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kajethan Chukwemeka Agu, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on this week's edition of Late Edition. My name is Claire Adelabo Abdul Rosak. Thank you for watching from me and the rest of the production crew. It's bye-bye.